Let me know if you can see this. Here, Mahmood, if you would.
Yep, looking good.
All right, perfect. We'll give it another 30 to 60 seconds here to let the last couple of people jump on. Looks like we still got some people join in, and we'll get started here at the top of the hour. My computer officially says 2 o'clock Eastern, so we'll give it about another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll get going. Whoops. I will let you guys know that if you just joined, there's an option up on the top of your team screen. It looks like a little thought bubble kind of that says conversation. If you have questions throughout the presentation, go ahead and drop your questions in there. And Mahmood and Morgan and Megan and myself will try to keep an eye on that and make sure that I get your questions answered along the way. I think I'm ready to get going here. Morgan, if you want to start the recording. Like I mentioned, for those of you that didn't hear me earlier, we are going to record this webinar here. So if you have anyone in your organization that missed the meeting, we will be sending out a recording of the webinar to make sure that they get all the information that we go over here today. My name is Jake. I'm one of the account managers here at Greenstone. Some of you may be familiar with me. If you're lucky enough, that's a joke. Although you guys are all muted, so I can't hear all of the roaring laughter that's going on right now, but that's okay. Point of the webinar here today is we're going to go through our MyGrower system. If you're not familiar with what MyGrower is, it's basically a grower portal that allows your patrons, your growers, your customers to access their address information, their account information with you. Allows them to see things like invoices, contracts, settlements, statements, so on and so forth, and allows them just to gain access to that information so that they can self-serve a little bit. So the plan for today is I'm going to show you a handful of things. First, we're going to start out with the web version of MyGrower, and then we'll also take a look at the mobile app version of MyGrower. Now, if you have MyGrower installed today or are looking to get MyGrower installed in the future, just know that both versions come out of the box. You get both the mobile app version and the web version. We do see a lot of growers using both. So we found that allowing people to offer MyGrower features on the web and through a mobile app is extremely helpful to their customers. So the way that growers get access to MyGrower is you basically set up a username and a password that logs them in. That username and password is then tied back to their account in your agri-system or multiple accounts in your agri-system. So each grower would have a username and password that would allow them to access this information. And if you guys can see my screen here, you'll notice that the first screen that we come to is kind of a dashboard. And this is really meant to give them a quick snapshot of their overall account with you. So up on the top here, you can see a summary of their storage and contracts on the grain side. So what do they have in open storage? What's in DP? Maybe you do grain bank if you're a feed manufacturer. And you can also see your sales and your purchase contracts. And one of the things that you'll notice is that where I have bushels, you'll see that there are hyperlinks. And that means I can drill down into that information and actually look at what's populating that data. So again, the point of those hyperlinks is to make that information readily available to your growers so they don't have to dig. We want this experience to be seamless for lack of a better term. We want that user experience to be relatively easy so that we can cut out any need for training types of activities. Anyone anywhere should be able to pick this this system up and use it without any kind of hand holding. Under the storage and contract summary, we have our account status. And account status is basically going to be what we would call accounts payable to your customers, accounts receivable to you, right? So basically the invoices that they have associated with their account. So it'll show their total balance past due, what the total balance is that is due, and their prepaid balance. And then also shows you the invoices in an individual manner right below. The messaging system within MyGrower is, again, available on both platforms. It works a little bit differently when you talk about the mobile app versus the web version. So as a company, you can push out notifications to your customers through these messages. And for those growers that have the mobile app installed on their phone, those messages will come across as push notifications. So similar to what you get from, a LinkedIn or a Facebook, sends them a push notification. Maybe just take, for example, you're going to have a company barbecue this coming weekend, and you wanted to send out a notification to your customers that anybody is welcome to join. You could send that out in a message, and every customer that has the app that's installed on their phone is going to get that push notification. On the web version, they do have to log in to view these messages, but you can see here, with it being right on the dashboard, really easily to catch up on all the messages that they may have missed. The last few things that you'll see on their dashboard is a contract summary and recent shipments. Now, recent shipments are going to be scale tickets, right? When we're talking in Agris and one-way terms, these are going to be scale tickets. And these scale tickets is basically going to give you a running tally of all the scale tickets that have come through. So one of the really nice things about MyGrower is it's really the only app that's out there that has a live connection to the ERP. So as soon as the information gets into Agris, it's available to your customers to view through MyGrower. So if you just entered in a contract, for example, you just entered in an invoice, for example, right? As soon as that's entered and saved in Agris, is going to be available in MyGrower. Now, all the detail behind this dashboard is also available on the left-hand side on these drop-down menus. So you can see if I open up these menus here, I can drill into invoices in specific and just see a list of all of my invoices. Each of these screens do have some search capability and sorting and filtering capability that you can see up here on the top. These columns act a lot like Excel, so we tried to make it, something that would be familiar to your growers, again, to make the experience easy. So if they need to sort and filter on those columns, they can anywhere that you see this upside down triangle. I do get kind of a summary of the information on the first page here. So I can see the date that the invoice was issued, the invoice number, what the description of the invoice items were, who it was billed to, and the amount, right? But you can see over here on the right-hand side, I can also download a PDF of that invoice. So if I click this PDF icon, a couple of things are going to happen. Number one, it's going to make a call out to your Agris system and grab the exact form that you as a company would use for your invoices. So what we're looking at here is just my demo system. Your invoice form, especially if you're using custom graphic forms for invoices or contracts or settlements or statements. The beauty of MyGrower is it's actually going to call your form. So again, from the customer's perspective, right, talking about experience, from the customer's perspective, they're going to see that form exactly the way that it would have been if you handed it to them across the counter in your office. And we feel like that's really important because you guys spend a lot of time making sure that your forms are correct and exactly the way that you want it. So why would we want to, re-render that data any way differently? So I know Mahmood and his team are really proud of that work that they've done to be able to give your growers access to those forms. On the grain side, one of the things that I like to point out in MyGrower, when we look at storage, right? Um, they're able to drill into tickets that are applied to specific storage types. And this is great overall, but really more in specifically, one of the things that we see our customers using this for a lot is for the not yet applied tickets. So this first row that I have up here on top. And that would basically be tickets that have come into Agris on hold, right? And the majority of our customers bring scale tickets into Agris on hold, and then they get applied towards a specific contract or a specific account once it's in the back office. So in my example here, if I'm a grower and I want to look at just my tickets that I haven't applied yet, I can simply log into MyGrower, click storage, and look at my not yet applied, and you'll see that I have a hyperlink here. If I click on that hyperlink, it's only going to show me grain tickets that have a storage type of not yet applied. So now I can really make some decisions on what I want to do with that scale ticket. And if I want to see a little bit more information, you'll see that I have this little caret icon on the far left hand side. If I drop that down, it'll show me the splits that were associated with that ticket. So if I need to make sure that I'm only giving you feedback on tickets that I have maybe a majority ownership in, you can view those splits right away. But when we talk about scale tickets in particular, and even more in particular, scale tickets that are on hold, if I'm a grain originator, if I'm a merchandiser, or anyone who's customer facing that's helping growers figure out how they want these tickets applied, it makes that conversation really easy because the grower can log in and see the information, same information that I would be looking at if I was in Agris. Again, allows them to make those decisions on what they want to do with those unapplied tickets. Just kind of for informational purposes, if I click on this view button here, I can get into the actual scale ticket detail. Let me blow this up for you guys here. So if I want to view the scale ticket detail, or again, if I want to look at the true PDF copy of that scale ticket, I can ask MyGrower to go and call the PDF copy of that scale ticket. So again, the purpose of the way that we have these menu options designed is so that you can get a high level view of all of the information and then continuously drill down all the way down to the originating document. So depending on the information that you're looking for, right? If you're looking for high level information and you want it quick and easy, that's what we're trying to do with the summary information. If you need to get down into the weeds, into the nitty gritty, we want you to be able to have that drill down capability to be able to see that detail. One of the nice things about MyGrower that's really interesting that Mahmood and his team came up with, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback from customers on this, is the ability to allow your customers or allow your growers to run reports. Now, allowing them to see forms like scale tickets and contracts and settlements is one thing, but allowing them to actually run reports on their own is a whole nother step that Mahmood and his team have taken with the development work that they've done in MyGrower. One of the most commonly used reports in MyGrower is a proof of yield report or a proof of yield statement. That's a report that we found many of our customers, many of the actual Agris users get calls on constantly. A grower calls in, says, "Hey, can you give me a proof of yield statement?" somebody goes into Agris, runs it off for them, and either mails it out to them or emails it to them, right? But making those common reports available to MyGrower users, again, so that they can self-serve a little bit, is a huge step in changing the conversations that you're having with your growers. Because what we're not trying to do with MyGrower is eliminate the conversations that you're having with your growers, right? That's not the intent. The intent is to change the tone of the conversations that you're having from a transactional conversation to a more value building conversation, right? So if we can allow your growers to self-serve on the transactional side, when we do have those conversations with them, we're really talking about more valuable conversations. We're talking about, well, now that we have this data, what do we want to do with it, right? What's our plan moving forward? So there, in the last release that Mahmoud and his team pushed out, he did add a couple of new reports that I think are really great, honestly. One of the most highly requested reports that we've seen since we released the Proof of Yield report is for cooperatives, in specific, a stock equity balance report, which you'll see here is second from the bottom. Mahmoud and his team worked really hard on making that available. And also for our more retail-oriented customers, we have a volume report, or as some people call it, a sales history by product category report. So allowing your customers to go in and see, by products and by product category, what's the history of their purchases, right? So we're looking to constantly build this library of reports that we can make available to your growers, again, so that they can self-serve. On contracts, and I'm kind of jumping around here. I should probably take a look at the chat. I don't see any questions at this point here yet, so I'll figure, if I don't see any questions, I figure one of two things is going on. Either I'm explaining everything perfectly well, or I'm explaining it terribly and nobody is even understanding what I'm talking about. So I'm going to hope that it's the first one, that I'm explaining everything really well. But again, if you do have questions, go ahead and type them in that conversation box and I'll try to get them answered. Contracts is another place where Mahmoud and his team have worked quite a bit, especially over the last couple of releases. So if I'm a grower and want to look at my contracts that I have with a customer, again, if I select our contracts icon over here in our list, it's going to show me the open contracts in a summary view. But you'll notice, again, on the left-hand side, I have this little caret drop down. And again, sometimes I get more excited about this stuff than I probably should. But one of the things that Mahmoud and his team has enabled is the ability to view related documents from the initial page. So if I want to look at a contract, maybe I also need to know what scale tickets have been applied to that contract, or have there been any settlements created based on that contract. So with this caret drop down in places like contracts and settlements, it's actually going to show you the related documents right from the first screen. So if I needed to look at, okay, for contract number 54, I have one ticket associated with it, this 100-Z000002. If I wanted to look at that scale ticket, I don't have to go back all the way to the scale ticket screen. I can select that number, that link, that hyperlink right from the contract view and look at that scale ticket. So again, talking about user experience just makes the time that your growers spend on MyGrower more, what's the word that I'm looking for here? It reduces the time that the growers have to spend digging for supporting documentation. That's how I wanted to say that. It reduces the time spent digging. And I think that's really important, especially as we get into busy times, like harvest season, like planting season, where we all know everybody is busy. Just having that information readily available at one click of a button is extremely important. Now you notice too that if I am actually searching for just the contract information, I do have a PDF button that I can click. And again, it'll go back and call that contract form. So I'll get that generated here just so you guys can take a look at it. Again, it's going to pull my Agris contract form that I have. And it's going to, I had an interesting question asked of me the other day. And the question was, well, how does MyGrower know what form to actually call? Because we may have a handful, or we may have 10 or 20 different types of contract forms that we're using based on the different contract types. And it's going to always refer back to the original form that was used when that transaction was created. So even if you have multiple invoice forms, even if you have multiple contract forms, even if you have multiple settlement forms, it's always going to refer back to the original form type that was associated with that transaction originally. At that point, I'm going to pause and actually switch over to my phone here. I'm going to show off the mobile app version. If I can stop sharing here. And Mahmoud, if you would, one more time, just give me some confirmation that you can see my screen here.
Yep, I can see it.
All right, perfect. Try to get rid of that that little Teams box that you guys are seeing here. All right, so this is my personal phone, right? So I'm going to ask you to ignore any texts or calls that come through. I have my do not disturb on, so hopefully we won't get too many. But I have the MyGrower app installed. If I just swipe up here, you'll see that I have a page specifically dedicated to Agris, related apps. The MyGrower Essential and the Ubiquity Co-op apps that are on the top row, the two in the very center, are really what I'm going to focus on here. So when we talk about a mobile app, there's a level of customization. Whoops, I guess, and if I don't keep my phone touched, it's going to lock on me.
Just so you know, stop sharing as well.
Oops. Sorry. Let me get back to that.
Okay, you're back.
Okay, all right. Mental note: don't let your phone go to sleep when you're using Teams. The two apps in the top row are right dead in the center there. The MyGrower Essential and the Ubiquity Co-op are the ones that I'm going to focus on. Within both the app and the web version, there's a level of customization that MyGrower can go through for your business. Obviously, color schemes, embedding your company name, embedding your company logo on the web version are things that we would work through with you during the initial setup process. But when it comes to the mobile app, there are really two versions of MyGrower that you can choose from. The first version is what we call MyGrower Essential, and that's a generic branded app. As you can see, it has the MyGrower logo as the app tile and is actually called MyGrower Essential. The app to the right of it, the Ubiquity Co-op, is what we would call a customized app, where we would actually take your company logo, add it as the app tile, and add your company name as the app name. And really, the way that I try to explain it is, how do you want your growers to find your app, right? Do you want them to search for MyGrower? If that's the case, the Essential app is probably a better fit for you. Or do you want them to search for your company's name when they're in Google Play, the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store? If you'd rather them search your company name, the customized app is probably a better option for you. But we didn't want to force people to go one way or the other, so we have options for both. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the MyGrower app here. Now you'll see that it's asking for an email and a password. This is a step that I had skipped on the web version. So I'll go ahead and type in my email address and my password and log in. If you would like, you'll see here that I'm getting a notice that I can save this with Samsung Pass. I use an Android phone, but whether you're using Android or Apple, if you use the biometrics to save passwords and log into apps, just know that MyGrower is enabled for that type of functionality. So if you wanted to use your fingerprint to log into MyGrower, if you wanted to use the facial recognition to log into MyGrower, you definitely can do that. I don't save that on there simply so that I can show it when we're doing these demos. So when I log into the app, you'll notice that the first screen looks a little bit different, right? There's no dashboard that's showing you kind of the snapshot of the overall account, and we did that on purpose. So one of the things that we have noticed is that when people are using the app, most of the time they're running on a data connection and not a Wi-Fi connection. So we didn't want the app to call all of the data upon opening if you're in kind of a spotty connection area, right? And that's really just to increase the user experience and increase the responsiveness of the app. All of the information that you can see in the web version is available in the app version. So there's really no difference between the two. It's just what it looks like when you initially log in. So I'm going to click through a couple of these options here to show you what the drill down looks like through the mobile app. So one of the things that we didn't cover when we were on the web version was things like settlements, right? So if I drill into settlements, you can see that I have one settlement available here. I'll go ahead and click in on that. And it's going to show me a summary of the settlement. And again, it's going to show me the related documents to this settlement. So I have a $4,000 payment coming my way, but maybe I want to see, well, where did that $4,000 come from? Well, it came from contract number 61. And the delivery sheets that were associated with that contract, I had one delivery sheet number 7. And those are hyperlinked as well. So if I wanted to look at them, if I wanted to look at the contract, I can drill into contract number 61, view the detail, and go as far as grabbing a PDF copy while I'm on my cell phone. So if I click the PDF icon on the top right, again, just kind of trying to show you guys the similarities between the web version and the mobile app version. It's going to launch my Adobe Acrobat Reader, there, my PDF reader, and again, going to call that contract from my Agra system. But I think it's really important when we talk about being able to see those related documents. Again, I don't want to harp on too many things for too long, but I know Mahmoud and his team spent a lot of time in being able to relate those documents. Excuse me. And there was even work that went into enhancing Agris to be able to allow that. Anytime you want to go back to the home screen, you can click on, well, in this demo version of the app, you can click on the MyGrower Essential name at the top, and it'll take you back to the home screen and allow you to drill in further. One of the things that we didn't talk about again on the web version was an option that you have available with both the web and mobile, and that is electronic contract signature. So you'll see down towards the bottom of my list here, actually third from the bottom, is contract signature. And we've spent quite a bit of time working on the workflow that goes behind electronic contract signature. So in Agris, right, when you're creating a contract, you still create a contract the same way that you always have. Once that contract is created, it gets pushed to an approval matrix so that you have a chance to review that contract before it gets sent out to the customer for signature. Once that contract passes through the approval matrix, the customer gets a both an email and a notification that they have unsigned contracts ready to be signed. So they can sign that contract either through their email or log on to MyGrower and sign it through there, whichever is easier for them. Once the customer or once the grower signs that contract is then taken and attached into your Agris system using the attach to module. And it also changes the signed status under contract maintenance. Now, hopefully everybody is using that signed status under contract maintenance, but if you're not, the reason that's in there is so that you can do some exception reporting and making sure that you have all of your contracts signed. So that signed status is normally a yes or no option. When the contract is originally created, it defaults to a no. But if you're using the electronic contract signature, really it's a hands-off process once you've created that contract to be able to get that contract back, get the electronic copy stored and attached to, and have that signed status changed to a yes, so that you know full and well that that contract is signed. So that's some of that two-way communication that we're working on between the MyGrower app and Agris. Obviously, one of the benefits that we have of being the developers on both products is that we can work through that type of two-way communication where we pass information to MyGrower and then have information passed back to Agris. You will notice a couple of options down at the bottom of my screen, a call option and a send a message. So those are going to be customizable. Call option is going to launch the default phone app that's on the phone with a phone number that would probably take you to either a main office number or a merchandiser or someone who is going to field calls from the app. And the send a message is going to load up the default email app that's installed on the phone. Let's see here. I think we've got a couple of questions here. There's one question. Is there a log file to see which growers are using the app and how often? Yes, there is. Actually, interestingly enough, Mahmood just worked with the last release of improving that logging capability of being able to allow admins for MyGrower to export members to Excel and also show the mapping for the user names and passwords that you have for MyGrower, show the mapping for what accounts in Agris they're connected to give you an extra level of detail.
Yeah, but definitely also shows when that grower last logged in. Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
There's one more question. Do we have to have an additional module to use electronic signature? So there's a couple of requirements to be able to use the electronic signature. Number one, you have to have the license for the electronic signature itself. We work with a company called OneSpan, and they actually handle the signature process and all the fine print that goes along with accepting electronic signatures. But you also have to have the attached to module in your Agris license because the contract needs somewhere to go, and attached to is our electronic document storage system. So you'd have to have those two things to be able to do the electronic signature, the license for electronic signature and the license for attached to. With kind of jumping backwards here a little bit, with the messages, like I said, on the mobile app side, right, the messages come across as push notifications. But one of the questions that I get a lot is, well, where do the messages go, right? If I ignore that push notification, where does that message go? And you'll see up on the top right hand side, there's a little hamburger icon. If I open that up, it's going to take me to a couple of extra options, my messages, but also my how-to page, and allow me to change my password, look at the terms and conditions, so on and so forth. But really, the two things that I like to show off under this hamburger icon is, number one, the messages, and number two, the how-to page. So let's say, for example, you have a grower who is struggling to try to find scale tickets, right? There is a how-to page that if they click on this, it'll launch their web browser and actually take them to the MyGrower documentation. So if they wanted to get a better understanding of how that works, they can always select that user guide, and it'll take them out to the web. I see that Mahmood has actually sent me a message. Actually, you can see here that if I swipe down and look at my notifications, I have a MyGrower Essential notification here that Mahmood had sent. So that's what it would look like from a user perspective if you were to send out a message to your group. Oops.
Yep. And
Sorry.
that notification would have popped up on the screen for you guys or for your growers, but Jake had the notification turned off. So
during presentation, like I said, I have my do not disturb on, so it's kind of blocking the notifications that are coming up here. But yes, I think that gets the relative points across there. Let's see what other questions. What other questions do we have here? Let's see here. How many customers? Sorry, I keep forgetting to click on my phone here. How many customers are using MyGrower? Mahmood, do you have an idea of what that is?
How many customers or growers? As in companies or growers?
Good question.
Growers, it's thousands. I mean, just a couple of our customers have close to 1,000 on their own. So definitely thousands of growers. Companies, a couple dozen.
Okay.
More than that.
Hopefully that answers the question there. Okay. There's a question here. Do growers get notifications I think we already answered that question. How do my customers see their orders? Okay, so there's a question that says, how do my customers see their orders? There's an open sales order report that's available through MyGrower. So if you have customers that are looking for the orders that they have open, I would suggest that that's probably going to be the easiest way for them to see that. That's already built in. Let's see here. Mahmoud, am I missing anything that that I needed to go over? I think I'm getting to the end of my stuff here.
I didn't understand a couple of the ones David wrote, but let's see. I think Linda's typing one up. But if you're done with the mobile, if you can go back to desktop, if you don't mind, couple more things that I'd like you to point out, like the ticket export. That'd be a good one to share if you're done with the mobile.
Yes. Let me see if I can figure out how to turn off my share on this. Oh, there it is. So it's probably the big red button that says stop sharing. And let me bring my computer back up here.
In the meantime, I'll answer Linda's question. Can you see bookings and their balances in MyGrower? Currently, no, you cannot. But that's something on our roadmap to bring in bookings and sales orders, so growers can see both of those. And Jake might have mentioned in the beginning. I'm not sure. With most of the things that you see on MyGrower, there are admin preferences where you can show and hide certain features. So if you're a company that's not going to show any AR, you could hide statements, you could hide the invoices and things like that. So you've got the the freedom to change that configurability.
Yeah. I think thank you for reminding me of this, Mahmoud. I totally forgot about this part. If you guys can see my screen here, one of the things that that Mahmoud was mentioning there was the ability to export this information, especially as it relates to scale tickets. That's, I think, where we see this this functionality used most commonly. So if I'm a grower and I have a list of 10, 20, 30, 100 scale tickets, one of the things that we see a lot is growers like to use the export to Excel function that you can see is up here on the top left-hand corner. And the reason that a lot of people like to use this for scale tickets in particular is so that they can do some manual calculations on their own. So if they wanted to look at what's some average grade factors over a certain period of time, right? Out of the scale tickets that I delivered Monday and Tuesday, what was my average moisture readout? So with the export to Excel, it's going to grab all of the data that's populated on those scale tickets, including weights and grades and names, and push that out to Excel so that you can do those kind of manual manipulations.
Would you mind writing one, Jake? If you don't mind doing the
sure.
So just so they could, because I want to make clear that the abundance of detail that shows up. So it's not just everything here that you see on the screen. It's like Jake said, everything that's behind that ticket too comes into that Excel spreadsheet, and it comes pre-filtered, where the filter is on. So you don't have to be an avid Excel user like any of the AR folks. You can simply go in and just start hitting the filters from up top. If you want to see tickets that were only applied to a specific name ID, and I could just go on and on. Every single piece in that ticket's detail is in here. If you had farm and field set up, you could filter by those. if you had shipper and hauler, that would show in here. Reference, other reference field, and then of course all the applications, grades and discounts. So yeah, so you don't have to be a big grower, to utilize this and have it be useful. But it certainly helps when you have more tickets in here. I got another question from Rob. Did the grower email multiple MyGrower accounts issue get corrected in the last release? So to give context for those who are on the call that don't know what that is. So we had an issue where basically you can only use one email across MyGrower. So if there was a mutual grower that did business with multiple agribusinesses that had MyGrower, they could only use one email for one organization. Now that's something that's been resolved internally currently, and it's finished testing. So that'll be going out with the next release, 295. 295 we're hoping to release within, I want to say, the next week and a half. And that will have that, as well as the ability to run reports and see statements on mobile in addition to the website. Rob, let me know if you want me to elaborate any further. Happy to.
All right. The last thing that I wanted to mention is I had shown this on the mobile side, but I wanted to show it on the web so that you guys could see it maybe a little bit better. The MyGrower customer documentation, once you have MyGrower set up, is fully accessible to you, and that also includes the what's new as far as what's been included in the latest releases. So if you want to go back we're going all the way back to 2018 on this list here. And also, if you want to rewatch any of the webinars like this one that we've done, we always link the MyGrower quarterly webinars on this page. If you want to get to this page, all you have to do is Google MyGrower customer documentation, and it should take you to this link here. So that's about everything that I have from a walkthrough perspective. Mahmoud has some questions that I know he'd like to get through here with the last 15 minutes or so that we have. So Mahmoud, if I can go ahead, I'll stop sharing.
I don't actually. Sorry.
Okay. Nope. No worries. No worries. So what other questions do you guys have here for us? We'll give it a couple of minutes here. If you guys have questions, feel free to type them in the chatter box. And if you don't have questions, I will say I appreciate you guys jumping on this webinar here. It's been a blast. I thank you guys for your time. Hopefully the things that we covered here today were useful, and hopefully the 50 minutes that we spent together here were worth the time, and we appreciate all of your guys' business. So thank you. If you do have questions that come up after the webinar, always feel free to reach out to myself or Mahmoud or the support team, and we'll get your questions answered. I will say, Mahmoud, I almost forgot. I will say one thing that we normally tell people that don't have MyGrower installed quite yet. There are a handful of prerequisites for installing MyGrower. One of the bigger ones is just making sure that you are on an Agris release that is under a year old. So making sure that you're at least close to up to date with your Agris releases is important if you are looking at bringing MyGrower on to your environment. So currently we're sitting on Agris version 20.3. So as long as you're on any of the 20 versions of Agris, you should be fine. But if you're still running a 19 or even an 18 version of Agris, We probably ought to look at getting that updated. And the easiest way that you can find that is if you go into Agris and go into Help and About Agris, it'll show you what your version is there. Can you set up a message and delay the sending? For example, next Friday, our facility will be closed for the holiday. Can you set up a message today, but wait to send it next week, Thursday?
Yeah. Yeah, to answer that question, thanks for asking that, Data. I'm glad that you asked that because I've never heard that before. It's a cool it's cool feedback to hear though. I could certainly add it as an item into the backlog. We do plan on making some different innovations around messaging. You know, being able to target specific individuals or even groups instead of sending to the mass as it's set up currently. But that's a cool addition too. I like that. I'll get that written up.
Thanks for that.
Question from Michael. He said, "Is there a bid or offer aspect to the app?" Yeah, we're actually. So I'll talk about the offer part. We do show bids through the app, but as far as executing an offer from the grower's perspective, we're working with RJO and their harvest platform. We've partnered up with them sometime last year, and majority of the time up until this point, we've been working on the Agris part of it. So it would be a full circle, right? It wouldn't just be an integration between MyGrower and Harvest. It would be an integration between MyGrower, Harvest, and Agris. And of course, Agris and MyGrower already talk. But yeah, so we are working on that so that growers can execute offers, and they'll be able to also manage those offers from within the app in association with, with the admins being on the harvest side. Nope, you're fine. You're fine, Michael. We did not cover that, but that's a good question. I'm glad you brought it up. How does the bid side work? As far as showing bids and features, and I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, Craig. Right now, we already have an integration with DTN. Okay, good. Thank you for confirming. We already have an integration with DTN. So if DTN is the one that you use, you'd simply ask them for a specific address that they would give you. Support could give it to you. And then you just plug it into MyGrower along with your credentials on the admin side. And then the bids and features show up through MyGrower, the website and the app. And you don't have to go into MyGrower to make any of the edits. You could do it from your DTN portal as you normally would now. And then the next step on the list as far as bids and features is bar chart. So they're next as far as integrating with them. So if you're not using DTN but you're using bar chart, you could do the same thing. And if you're hopefully that's not something that would hold you back. So for example, there's a few customers currently on MyGrower that are using bar chart, and while they're waiting for the bar chart work to get done, if you look on the screen currently towards the bottom left there, where it says cash bids, and right underneath it says Millline Camera East. So those are actually hyperlinks that the admin has control over. You can add your own hyperlinks and call them whatever you'd like and have them point to wherever you like, as long as it's a secure website designated by HTTPS. We don't send growers out of MyGrower to an unsecured website. So by doing so, you could basically map it to the web page on your website. Assuming you show your bids on your website, you could basically put that URL behind this hyperlink, and so when they click on it, it takes them immediately to it. So if Jake, if you would, cash bids isn't actually behind the word cash bids, but you can click on the cash bids hyperlink. I think I have it mapped to Google or Greenstone or something like that.
Yeah, I think it goes out to our website there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does show that it'll take you out to a website.
Yeah, there you go. That way they could at least get to it faster. It's not the it's not uh, the final solution, but it's kind of a workaround until we get that part done. And then after that, of course, you could always utilize the hyperlinks for whatever you like, and you could have up to 3, and that goes for both web and mobile. All right. Hopefully that answers that. Can you use the offer system in DTN on the app for bid offer, or do you have to use Harvest? Harvest. Harvest is the one that we are partnering with. Yep. At least currently. Okay. And while other people write questions, if there are any, I know Jake was being respectful because he thought I had a couple of questions, but I'll mention a couple of things here that we might have not gone over on MyGrower and just super high level. Along with invoices, we do have the ability to let growers make payments to the agribusiness via ACH or PayPal. No one really uses PayPal just because of the fee, but of course ACH is available, so most people would use that if they're allowing that capability. And that's accessible from the invoices, and you could do it on both web and mobile. It's very easy. The grower makes the payment after setting up their account. Payment goes into Agris. You could have it come in as an unapplied payment or automatically apply. Jake, I am sorry if you mentioned ACH, by the way, my bad. Let's see. Settlements, that one's pretty straightforward, similar to contracts and invoices or tickets. Gives you the summary. You have the ability to drill in, but then you can also view the PDF. And similar to contracts, from the settlements screen, there's a similar caret where you could see related documents. So on contracts, you were able to see related tickets and settlements, whereas on settlements page, you're able to see related contracts and delivery sheets. And then at the bottom there, right on top of reports within business documents, you can see statements, regular AR statements, prepay statements, and those would pull, of course, again, out of Agris, an exact replica of the form that you're using. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, yep, sounds good. Thanks, Mahmood. Again, thanks everybody for jumping on here. I don't see many other questions coming through. We can hang out for maybe another minute or so just to make sure. But at this point, being respectful of your guys' time, we appreciate you spending the time with us here today, and looking forward to next quarter's update webinar.
Thank you, everybody. And feel free to reach out any time to us.